And hi and welcome to the Skeptical Leftist podcast, the show where I talk to a variety of people to spread critical thinking, progressive politics, and left-wing philosophy. And I am joined once again by Lucretia McEvil. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, what's up, Corey?
Oh, not too much. Yeah. It's been a little while since we chatted last. I guess you've had some pretty decent growth on your channel, and you've started a new kind of living situation where you're now working for some awful corporation that's making you do graphic art design that you don't believe in.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's crazy. You're right. The last time we did speak, I was still in corporate. I'm really glad to have left. But I appreciate the experience because it woke me up. This, I feel like this happens in general. Like, when you're younger, people are like, oh, you'll change or you'll get more mature when you're older or whatever. So, like, I feel like I joined advertising at a point in time where I was, like, feeling pressure about societal expectations about, like, having a job and,
Right.
like, being a successful person. And the whole time I was there, I felt like I was back in high school. That's when I knew it was not a safe place for me to be, because I was pretending to be somebody else for money. And then, like you said, I was being offered, like, oh, you want to do this project? And then they won't tell you what the client is. And then the client's Raytheon. You know what I mean?
Right.
They did that on purpose because they knew, like, when they hired me, that I told them I was very principled. And they were like, oh, you'll be able to turn down any project that you don't support. And then I do it, and then it's an issue. So it's like, okay, yeah. They're trying to break me, and I'm not dealing with this shit right now.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad to be gone. And yeah, back to the working class. I took a really big pay cut, but I'm emotionally free, and now I have opportunities that I wouldn't have had before.
Right.
Like, I'm in this media residency now, and it's really awesome opportunity that I'll be able to work on more videos and things like that for the summer. So I'm trying to plan more content and, just like be more explorative when it comes to making things.
That's awesome.
Currently interested in, like, more storytelling. Like, as you mentioned, my channel did grow a lot, and it's crazy to think about, like, 20,000 people listening to me. Like,
right.
Like, my brain still cannot comprehend any of that.
No kidding.
But because of it, it's making me think about more ways to, like, explore what I really want to say or really want to do beyond. Like I mentioned to you previously, like, I made this because I wanted to make videos. It wasn't like, I'm going to be a YouTube, it was never like that. It was like, I don't see myself. I don't see my opinion. So I'm going to make videos and see what happens. So
sure, yeah.
It's crazy that, now I have, like, opportunity.
That's awesome.
It's nuts.
I love seeing, like, I mean, I've been a podcaster since, like, 2011, right? So, like, I slowly, you build your small niche audience and you kind of hang out with them. And then you see people that you've talked to blow up. And it's like this, like, I don't know, maybe I don't deserve to feel pride for the people that I've talked to, but I find it so cool when somebody, like, blows up. And I thought it was super cool that you had such a good reception on your videos.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you too. I think I told you were, like, the first interview I ever, like, had.
Right?
I appreciate this a lot. And yeah, I mean, you should feel pride because, like, we're a small community of folks anyway.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to have, like, some sort of camaraderie. And, like, if we are paying attention to what really matters is, like, our message, like, we want to spread, like, anarchism.
That's right.
And peace and things like that. So for me, it's like, if people are spreading it and getting the message, then, like, yes, I'm cheering too,
That's right.
That's the main point. Like, I don't care who the messenger is, as long as people know that, like, these are valid, like,
that's right.
To have,
Yeah, there's a world that we can think of outside of what is going on. It's very, very important to know. Yeah, seems like a lot of people I just recently started paying attention to my LinkedIn account, which is hilarious. And it is like another world there. Like, you get all kinds of conversations on other social media where people are talking about like radical stuff. And like, you may disagree with them on this or that, but like, there's actual conversations there, but not on LinkedIn.
No.
It's like pure business all the
Yeah.
time. I cannot relate. These are not human beings to me.
That's how I felt too. No, exactly. No, I can relate to that a lot. And that's also a part of why I left that like office corporate structure, because in a place like LinkedIn, at this point in the way that American like business life is set up, you can't really succeed without it if you're trying to get into that space on any
Right.
level. It doesn't matter what industry it is. If you have to work in an office, you need a LinkedIn,
Right.
which is fucked up, because
No
then you
kidding.
have to, like you said, censor yourself or be a certain way, and like the performance doesn't end after your 9 to 5, because then they're looking at your social media. They're trying
Right.
to see what you say outside or do what see what you do off the clock, which is another reason why I left advertising, because they were so invasive about what I did
Yeah.
on my own time. And I'm not going to explain to you that I'm an anarchist and, you know, like,
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to tell you what I do when I'm not here. You are the op. I'm only here for a check. So,
I sell you my labor for a
right.
wage. Like, you don't
That's
own
it.
me, man.
That's it. You don't get to ask me what I'm doing after. You don't get to ask, like, what my politics or my beliefs are, because I know you're only going to be using it for like to put over my head, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
But the thing about these environments is that they expect that of you, and then it's a
Right.
faux pas when you don't. Like, you're seen as someone who's not cooperative when you
Yeah.
don't engage. Like, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, yeah, like, fine, label me as non-cooperative.
Right.
So
Like,
be
sure.
it.
If I don't fit in with y'all, I think I'm doing all right, you know? Like, I'd much rather be amongst other working class people than work with people who are in deep denial about being working class, regardless of if they have a salaried job or not. You know, like
Right.
every office worker, like, they're all working paycheck to paycheck too. Like, yeah, their
Right.
paychecks are $8,000 each time, but they have they're as broke as me on the third week before the last week of the
Yeah.
month. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's like people like that, and then people who never were in that position, who are just like so they're not aware of the reality that we as working class people like deal with on the day to day. So they don't have any self concept of that, which is like so interesting to me.
Yeah, it is interesting because like how do you exist without knowing what's going on in a way, in a sense, right? Like like your life is just at the office and nothing exists outside of it. Where did that happen?
Yeah. It drives me nuts, but then, like I mentioned before, like I appreciated my experience there because it made me like reignite my political fire. Like, I've always felt principled and like aligned my goals in life and like what I did around my politics, like always.
Right.
And this most recent time, like before I left, that was like the only time I did like what everybody tells you to do, where it's like, oh, you can make a compromise for your morals and then go get a jobby. And I'm like, no, actually, this is miserable. I hate this. I'm not doing this. Everybody else
Yeah.
who says you do this, they're miserable too. That's the thing.
Right.
But
Right.
I
Yeah.
realize that they're like deeply propagandized people, you know, like people who don't have life outside of the office. Like, those
Yeah.
are the people we need to help the most, because they
That's right.
genuinely don't think they have worth outside of their labor. And that's like
Yeah.
so fucked up.
Yeah. No, that's a terrible, terrible way to view yourself, right? Like, and then so then if you think that way and something happens to your like income, or you get laid off because the company doesn't actually care about you, then you start to feel like you have no value, and
Yeah,
that's not okay.
it really isn't. And like, I'll bring up my mom for a point too. Like, she retired last year. And it's been really hard for her because she was in corporate for
Oh.
the entirety of her career, honestly. Her first job was an office job. She worked for 40 years in corporate America. So now for her, like, her biggest thing is like not having deadlines. She's like, what do I
Okay.
do with myself? My
Ah.
calendar, I don't have 10 meetings on my calendar right now. And it's like, no, you can rest. Like, this is what you work for. This is now your time to like
Yeah,
chill
that's
out. But
right.
it's hard to switch that brain from that, especially if you're conditioned to like always be producing, always be performing, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I guess on some level, I do that to myself too for the like the podcast and stuff. But it's a passion project, so it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, it's definitely better to, and this is what I came to the conclusion with ultimately is that like I'm more satisfied when I'm working that hard, like I was in advertising, doing 60-hour weeks, doing stuff I want to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I can't do it for something that I'm not fully passionate about or something that I'm not going out of my way to like be proud of. Like it
right.
just does not feel good to me.
Yep,
And
for
I know
sure.
people don't have the option to do that. But I feel like I set my life up so I can take more risks like that. Like, I don't have any kids.
Right,
I'm single. Like, it's just me and my cat. So I like, I'm willing to take the risk to, take a pay cut for my fulfillment for myself.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
and I consider like, okay, I'll take one for the team. I don't, and not everybody can do that, but like at least somebody needs to.
yeah, that's right. And like one of the things that I like because I my job is 7 days on, 7 days off. So I'll work for the company that I work for the week, and I can you know kind of compartmentalize it, I guess. But then I get to come home and I get to do this and I get to talk to cool people and I get to talk about stuff that really matters and like spread good thinking. So it balances out, I guess, in a way to me. So
Yeah, it's like a good palate cleanser for
that's
yourself.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard for people in those office spaces. I feel like those are like the most propagandized,
Yeah.
centralized areas, like in an office environment, you're working 40 to sometimes 80 hours a week, depending on
Right.
your industry. You don't have time to listen to Democracy Now! You're going to watch
No.
the 5-minute clip on MSNBC,
Yeah.
and they're going to tell you what your politics are and what to believe.
Yep.
You don't have time to care about other people because you're overworked so hard that your brain's not working like properly in its proper function. So your empathy, like scientifically, is lower
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're tired. Like I feel like those things are done on purpose.
Yeah. And then of course there's always the tie in to like the quest for promotions and the way that even once you get promoted, like placing yourself in that hierarchy like that, like it affects the way that you think too, right? Like if you suddenly you're the boss of like a dozen people, like now you think you're more important than them.
Yeah,
And that I mean, so that's bound to affect your political outlook too, right?
yeah, absolutely. And the way that it happens is like it's the what is it, a Stanford experiment kind of
Right, right.
situation.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Because you can even like recognize it within yourself too. Like, oh, like depending on a situation, like if power dynamics are set up a certain way, like your personality starts to change,
Right.
like in office environments for myself, like I was the type of person, this happens in every environment because I grew up working class. I like work really hard because I don't like people having excuses to
Right.
not like me at work. Like that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with being Black American too. Like my family raised us with like people are already gonna think that you're a lazy bad worker, so you can't give them any excuse whatsoever.
Right. Right.
So I grew up kind of with that, like honestly, it's militant conditioning about work.
Yeah.
And then in the office environment, I was around people who were like personality sort of hires, where they're skating by just because they're better at like connecting with people.
Mm,
And when you're in that sort of mind space and you're in that environment where it's like you have to get to the top and there's only certain spaces to the top, like you start to get resentful. Like
yeah.
I hated those people at my job.
Yeah.
But like in any other context, I wouldn't care as much. Like if I was
Right.
with them at a bar and they weren't working as hard as me, like okay, they suck, whatever. Like I don't really like working with them, but it's not like it wouldn't feel like it was personal,
Right. Yeah.
like they were
Yeah.
doing it to me specifically. Like I've seen some crazy stuff in office politics. Like even though I was only in advertising for 2 years, I've seen people cry. I've seen all the people on top fighting with each other, like the infighting with like C-suite and stuff. It gets really crazy the higher up you go.
I bet.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Animal Farm or something. Honestly.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I've never had any ambition to be more than a frontline guy. So I don't have any real comparison for what's going on in the CEO's office or what have you. But I know that like I've spoken to people who are in management, and it seems like a never ending like cat fight. Like they're constantly on each other, bitching about each other, gossiping about each other. Like it's just like I don't know. I don't like living like that.
No, neither did I. It was like, geez. And you guys are all telling the rest of us, people not in these office positions, that this is what to strive for, and like this is how you get successful, and that's how they exploit people, because like you're willing to put all that emotional stuff on you because you got to pay your bills. You need to eat.
Yeah.
You're thinking about your student loan debt. You're thinking about your mom who has health problems, or your partner that needs something, like, and they hold it over our heads. It's like very manipulative and abusive. And I know that Zohran Mamdani is not our like savior messiah, but like the one thing that I really did appreciate about him winning the primary and becoming so popular in the last few weeks is that it's tangible for everybody on like every level that's not a multimillionaire in New York City. Like everybody gets like, oh, I do deserve more. And like that's the point of it, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm excited about that. But yeah, like I mentioned, like I'm curious about your opinion, I guess, in regards to this. Like, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but like there's a lot of leftist creators online that are talking about how we should be wary of him, which I completely think is like a totally fair point. Like, we shouldn't trust the establishment. He's technically still a Democrat, even though he organized with DSA, you know, all this stuff. But I'm curious what your outlook about him is, and if there's like, if you believe in the ability of us, like Kwame Ture said, to like use liberal mobilizing to organize. Like, I'm curious what you think about that.
I mean, I guess I feel really positive about the messages that he's had and the things that he's said and because he's kind of an outsider, kind of came up, and I mean, obviously Andrew Cuomo sucks and Eric Adams sucks. Like,
so bad.
so like this is somebody who's actually got like within the context of the electoral system, this is somebody who has potential to do some good. And I'm always going to be in favor of that, right? But yeah, also, I mean, I probably talk about it too much, but it's the theory of means and ends, right? Like using the state is never going to achieve the ends that we truly want. And so like this might be a step in a progressive direction, but it's not by any stretch like going to reach like the world that I want to build. So, I mean, I guess I'm kind of like half a one, six a dozen, or half a dozen of the other, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So yeah, like I think he's good, but maybe not as good as it could be. But I mean, not as good as it could be, like compared to like the majority of Democrats, he's still like miles ahead of where they are. So I don't know. I don't want to be a naysayer either, right? Like I don't want to be like just a hater who's like, fuck, he's just another Democrat. but yeah, it's I don't know. I feel that people should be excited about it.
Yeah. No, I can completely agree. And I feel like I've spoken to a few other of my friends about this, and they're all anarchists, and we kind of came to the same conclusion. Because again, anarchists already know that to everybody else, our mindset, our philosophy, our goal is too radical. Like we're the ones people think have tinfoil hats on.
Right.
So, like, a politician's never going to be an anarchist. Like, what? That's an oxymoron. So I'm not looking for an anarchist or anarchist principles when I see Zohran. I'm looking for ways to make people's lives better. I think that's what
Right.
Michael Parenti said. Like, he doesn't care what party he's a part of. He's a part of the movement that wants to feed kids, you know? And that's
Right.
like what I'm on. Like, okay, Zohran's not an anarchist, but he's gonna make childcare free and buses free. Like,
Yeah,
that's
like,
gonna change so many people's lives
yeah.
that like that will reduce need for other things. That'll be able to give us more opportunity to participate in the means that we want. Like, you know how many more people will be able to organize if they have a bus to get there? Like,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I was pretty excited about the idea of like implementing like a rent control kind of
oh my goodness,
thing.
yeah.
Like that's pretty awesome. I know that housing everywhere is getting completely out of control, and people are like having trouble surviving and paying for a 1-bedroom apartment. Like, so a little bit of like control over how bad that can get. I mean, it's like the opposite of what we hear from politicians 90% of the time, right? Because they're always like the free market, we can't have regulation. But this is like somebody who's actually coming in and saying like, no, we're going to control how bad this gets. Like, we're going to slow this down.
Absolutely, because like you said, it's getting bad everywhere. But it's to the point where, like, even the middle class in New York, and middle class in New York is not like 60 grand. Middle class
Right.
in New York is 100,000,
Yeah.
200,000. Even those people are struggling. So you can imagine everybody under the $100,000 mark, like me and everybody else, like the majority of
Yeah.
New
Like,
Yorkers, we're suffering out here.
for sure. How do you survive? Like, how does a person who works in a coffee shop or in a restaurant, and you need those people, how do they survive? How do they live in the area where they work? So it's I don't know. It's something's got to be done, right?
Right. That's what kind of kills me, to your point about rich people, though, is that they don't want to be around poor people, but they want poor people to serve them. So how can we both serve you and not be around? Like, it's crazy. They're
Yeah,
they're trying to price us out so we're not here, but they need somebody to pour their coffee. They
that's
need
right.
somebody to pour their drink at the bar, or they want those services where somebody else is doing it for them, but they're
Yep.
pricing the very people that would be doing those jobs out. So what's the end goal here? Someone nobody's gonna be around to do what you're asking for, and you're surely not gonna do it. So
Yeah,
we need regulation.
yeah.
It's the only way. They just have to suck it up.
They want to push all the workers that serve them out into the edges of the community so they don't have to look at them. And then they want to charge them half their income to travel back into the city to come and work for them.
Right. Which is ridiculous. Like, before I moved back, that's what I had to do. I was priced out of New York City. Like, I moved to Philly in 2018, and that was when gentrification in Bed-Stuy was like really, really bad.
Right.
It was going from like, oh, $600 per room to like $1,000 per room. Now it's even more. Like, some people are paying $2,000 for a bedroom in my
Wow.
old neighborhood, which is like,
That's unreal.
my brain will never accept that as normal, because it's literally not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It's literally not. But yeah, people. When I moved down there, that's what I ended up having to do, and I was in Philly working down there, and then the pandemic happened and work dried up in Philly. So then I ended up having to commute into New York City to work to pay my rent in Philly, which is insane.
Yeah.
And also, other people have to do that too. Like, I wasn't the only person commuting.
Right.
Every day when I was taking Megabus to the city, there was other people doing the same exact thing, which is that's what really stressed me out about it. Because it's like, one thing, like, it's not fair, but like, as a working class person or a working poor person, people expect us to suffer.
Right. Yeah.
But when you see other people experiencing the same things too, it's like, oh, this is really bad, because it's not just us anymore.
Yeah.
It's not just us anymore. And it never was supposed to be just us, but that shows the gravity of how bad things have gotten, when it's like I'm going there because I'm a working class person, but there's also like an older white man literally doing the same thing as me. I'm like,
Right.
what's wrong with what happened to your situation? Like, we're totally fucked up if you can't get a job,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
It's,
crazy.
yeah. I guess that's one thing that like, in a way kind of gives a person like a little bit of hope in a sense is that like maybe that older white guy can see that too, right? And be
Yeah,
like, hey, yeah, we are on the same page here and we are against we are the cause of our problems is the class system. It is the wealthy ruling over us and being like, yeah, you got to live over there and
yeah.
travel into work and like, yeah, like, hey, I guess, yeah, can I kind of hope that you can see it?
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, right? And like I honestly it's unfortunate, but this is just human. This is just human beings and our conditioning because we are still animals regardless of how much we can like wax poetic or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
But we only understand things when we experience them.
yeah,
Like in its fullness, you know what I mean? Like we can see poverty, we can see it in the day to day and we can have sympathy, but it really does make a difference when you experience that pain yourself. I forgot the quote, but it's like a quote that says something like, the revolution starts with a hungry belly or something like that. Like, I
oh
forget
yeah,
what it
something
is,
like
but
that.
like, you don't forget those sort of visceral
Yeah,
experiences of like not being able to eat any food after working hard,
yeah,
like you work a
yeah,
full 8 to 10 hours, and you have no money left over because you paid all your bills, and you have to wait 2 weeks. Like you don't forget that sort of anger or like um, discomfort around that, and I think that is going to be our leverage in the future because, like you mentioned, like it could be anybody. It's
yeah,
not pertained to race, and like unfortunately like the worse that capitalism will get, like the more people will experience the suffering.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It makes me think of like I guess maybe it wasn't when I it didn't radicalize me at the time, but I still always remember what it was like when I was in my early 20s and I was like, I didn't have food and I had to scam every day to try and figure out a way to eat. Like, so then you're like selling a little weed here, stealing a few mushrooms there, and you're trying to make up enough to buy a Subway sandwich.
Literally.
And like, yeah, like I think back on that stuff now and it's like, yeah, like that was, I shouldn't have had to do that. Nobody
Right.
should have to do that. But it's interesting that sometimes it's not radicalizing in the moment either. Like you need some kind of like other, I don't know, maybe it's like an educational
Mhm.
awareness, something else needs to come along that helps you realize where that is coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can internalize it too because of the way our system is set up and
Yeah,
like the way that our culture is set up too, where like we think A, that suffering is inevitable. Like obviously I like respect the Buddhist principle of like we will experience some level of suffering during our
right.
lives. But the idea that like this cruel level of suffering that like there's nothing anybody can do about it, that's like false as
For
hell.
sure. Yeah.
And that's how the power structures that we experience continue. Because everyone's thinking, oh no, like I deserve this.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to deal with this. But if it's like to your point, if enough of us are like, wait a second, you had to steal money, or you had to steal to survive, or I had to do that too. Like that, then we go, what's the problem here? Like,
Yeah.
what can we do to change that? And I think that's a part of the reason why they're fear mongering so much for Zoran because he's
Right.
not like to our point before, he's not even that radical
Right.
compared to like what we're thinking of. But they're so afraid of us getting even a crumb because they know we'll realize we were starving.
I just
They
saw
really
something today.
will.
I saw something today. Somebody, I think it was the New York Post or something, talking about he in 2021 he used the words owners, workers owning the means of production.
Oh.
it's it's the worst thing that anybody could ever possibly say. He's 100% a rabid communist who's going to tear down the system. And you go like, okay, well, you're just afraid because he's
Right.
slightly more radical than you are.
Right. It's so funny too, like, because in their fear mongering, when they're saying that, they're just making it more appealing and also more well known. Like,
yeah, that's
they're
right.
doing the same thing with him because he's a BDS, or was, I think he still is, but he was a active BDS activist, like
Right.
on the front lines, getting arrested, sort of stuff. And because of that, he has previously said that he wanted to globalize the Intifada.
Right, yeah.
So it's so funny watching the mainstream media melt down because they're continuing to repeat it, and now someone's going to look up what that even means.
Yeah,
You're
that's
like,
right.
what's so bad about that? And they're going to look it up and realize, oh, resistance fighting to oppression is okay. Like, that's what globalization means.
Yeah, that's right.
He's not talking about hurting anybody. He's not talking about anything like that. He's just saying that oppressed people deserve to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And the only people afraid of that would be somebody who is benefiting from oppressing you.
Yep.
So I really, like, to your point, like, I don't want to be a doomer either, but that's what I think Zohran's position really is. Like, he's still a politician. He's gonna disappoint us. We will still have to be on his neck just like anyone else.
Yeah, that's right.
But he's introducing ideas that we are often seen as, like, over dramatic or out of bounds, and he's making them seem normal. Like, he is helping bring the Overton window back to the left, even if it is slightly.
Yeah.
And we should take advantage of people's excitement and the momentum of it instead of coming online and being like, well, he's not radical enough. But what's the solution? You know, like, that's my whole thing. Like, you could say that and you're right, but, like, what next? Because
that's right.
People are looking for something. They're desperate for anything right now. And if you don't think he's doing good enough, then we need to be building something too.
Yeah. And I worry sometimes with that, like, kind of attitude that, like, those, they're right, but they've never talked to, like, a normal person, right?
Right.
Like, like, I'm going to have to talk to the guys at work and explain to them why Mamdani isn't as radical as I might like, but that he's still good. And how he's not as scary as they might think because they're consuming mainstream media that's portraying him as, like, this terrorist who's going to destroy things, right? And like this is, like, you have to be able to talk to normal people.
Yeah.
Who don't have the radical background that you have, you know?
Absolutely. And to your point, if they're already afraid of Zohran, right? They think he's this radical, extremist communist, and you come out of nowhere and are like, he's not extreme enough for me. Do you think you're going to win people over with that? Exactly. You're not going to do it. They already think we're nuts. So, like, we really do have to just utilize it. Like, I've been listening to a lot of Cuomo, as I usually do, but luckily enough, a lot of what he's talked about, because he organized since he was, I don't know, 15 before he passed. So it was like 30 plus years of organizing. He talked about how there is always opportunity for us to utilize liberal momentum for what we actually want. You know, like, it doesn't mean compromise with them. It doesn't mean align with their beliefs. It doesn't mean that we sacrifice our integrity.
Right.
We don't have to participate in any of the things that they want us to, but it's more about being there alongside them. It's like a loose contract of, like, collaboration, not even like partnership, but more like, I don't know, like when two gangs, like, put up a truce for a second, you know what I mean? Like, that's really what it is. Because like, our goal, we're trying to stop fascism from increasing more and more. Right. So if there are liberals who want to fight against that, they're on our side. If they're enabling it, yeah, we should call them out.
Right.
But, like, there's only so few of us on the actual left. You know? Right. Like, we don't have enough manpower. We don't. Yeah. And we didn't have it in World War II either until we brought the normies on. I don't know why everybody forgot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. You need to be able to talk to normal people. No, that's something that's really, like, really ringing to me lately is, like, so I kind of make my content geared for my people, right? Like, anarchists, leftists, hardcore communists of various stripes. Like, that's kind of what my content is for. But in my day-to-day life, like, I do not talk like an ultra leftist, right? Like, it. The people at my job do know I'm an anarchist, but they don't really know what that means.
Right.
So I can say, yeah, no, I just don't like any of the party politics. I don't really buy into that stuff. And they can be like, oh, okay, well, what do you think? And I think, well, I think that we should be in control of things and our boss shouldn't get to rule over us and dictate how we live. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right. That's the thing. People understand our policy.
Yeah.
But we can't wax poetic or be so caught up in theory that we don't make it understandable for people. I heard a statistic today, actually, earlier, that said the majority of people who are illiterate in the world are women, and the average reading level for an American is 6th grade. So when we're talking about dialectical materialism,
right, you got to use words they understand.
Like, come on, like the Black Panther Party specifically, they knew also it was similar at the time, especially because thinking of the time period, a lot of older Black folks that they were trying to reach out to, the youth, much like now, they were down with the Black Panther Party,
Right, yeah.
The teenage boomers, they were already all invested in and a part of it because they were part of the free love movement. They were learning about radicalism in college and all that stuff with Vietnam. But older Black people were former slaves, literally, or former sharecroppers, so they did not have an education level. And if they did, it was very low. So on purpose, this was Bobby Seale and Huey's doing. They wanted to make sure all of Black Panther literature was accessible language-wise, that was easy for people to understand. Yeah. That's why they did things like Black Power. Very simple phrasing.
Straightforward.
Power to the people. Anybody can understand that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they made sure all of their zines and literature had pictures of them.
Yeah.
So if they're talking about police brutality, then they're going to draw a cop. We have to think about these things because not everybody is on the same level as you. Yeah. If you want them to be on your level, you have to walk with them. I always think about my grandmother, who was an English teacher. She passed away in 2009, but literally every day I'm thinking about what she told me back then and her philosophy, because she was an English teacher and she always said that you're not very smart if the person you're teaching doesn't understand you. Right. You're not as good of a teacher or as good of a speaker if you're trying to educate someone on something and you're making them feel small, essentially. Yeah, that's right. what her main point of that was. So
yeah, for sure.
Where can we meet people where they're at,
Yeah, for sure. It's if people feel like you're talking down to them, they aren't going to listen to what you're saying. And yeah, and just the general academic language of Marxism and dialectical materialism and broad philosophy terms. If you're talking about Nietzsche and existentialism, I grew up my whole life, my dad told me philosophy is nonsense.
Right.
so this is something that you have to acknowledge, is that regular people who farm and work with their hands and work out in the stores, retail stores and whatnot, they're not going to be out there reading all these philosophy texts that you're recommending, and they may not have the background to understand it if they did read it.
Right.
So you actually have to talk to them and real people. I don't know. It just seems it seems so easy to say, I guess, because
no, for sure.
I know I still get caught up in a lot of the language too.
Me too. I feel like this is just a thing that we all have to kind of consider and keep in mind, because we're reading it, we're excited by it, we're passionate about it, and the thing I personally think what it is that we're putting language to things that we experience,
Right.
So that's why we're eager to share these phrases with other people. It's that person's not just being mean to you, they're being this, and this to you,
Right.
But we can still do that without going too heady and I think it's more important for us to think about impact, you
Right.
know? Because it's like, we could explain this concept to them, but people are only going to remember what those things that we're explaining to them made them feel. So, like,
Yeah.
how can we get from point A to point B about that without being, like you said, condescending? And I know
Yeah.
it's not intentional for people. Well, not always. I know some people definitely are doing it on purpose. But I think for the majority of well-meaning leftists who end up doing this, they're not intentionally trying to be like inaccessible.
Right.
Um, and I feel like it comes from like this feeling of like frustration, like, oh, if only people got it, we would get further. But it's our job to be the ones
Yes,
to make them
that's
get
right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't make people understand things more than we have to get better at explaining them.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's important too, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone, is like, don't like, not taking out the frustrations with interactions from online in the communications you have with people in real life.
Yeah.
Like, because you can talk to people at like I say at work, I have conversations with guys who are ostensibly conservatives or right wingers all the time, and like, it's nothing like talking to people online.
Right.
It's like, I get so frustrated even talking to a liberal on social media. Hi, Kitty.
What did you say hi?
I get so frustrated talking to even liberals or anyone on social media, but I can't take that into the real world. I can't use that same kind of mentality where like, yeah,
No, exactly. Or like you're so right about that. Or the idea that like you already know what someone's gonna feel or say. Like that
right,
for me, that's my personal thing because of the interactions I have online, especially now that I'm getting bigger. I'm
right,
getting a lot of like the same sort of sentiment and comments and things like that. So for myself, it's like I have to manage what I assume someone's intent is. Because, like you said, like in person, people aren't trying to troll me; they're trying to understand.
yeah.
So I have
Or
to be willing to be patient.
yeah, or if they are trying to troll you, it's like they you can see it on their faces. You can see that
Right, right,
they're fucking with you because they're a good friend or they're a coworker that's just fucking with you. You know,
right. You can like see it, and
yeah,
it's much more difficult to interrogate like what people's intentions are on online because there is that anonymity.
yeah,
But yeah, I think yeah, to your point, it's like I don't think it's intentional. I think yeah, it's more so about like how do we figure out how to process our frustration
yeah,
and make it more accessible to people because the frustration is valid, right? Like if the idea that like if more people just understood our world would be in a better place is real.
yeah, yeah. That's right.
But how do
Yeah,
we get there?
yeah, that's
How do we
right.
get from column A to column B in a way that is easy
Yeah,
for folks to understand?
yeah, because like we might like to imagine that we can have these massive like kind of educational programs, but the reality is that even if we're each reaching 20,000 people, which not all of us are, then we're still only reaching a very small percentage of the world compared to your mainstream propaganda. So you got to put in the work to like actually convince those people that are coming to your place.
Absolutely. And to your point earlier, like with us as leftists or anarchists more specifically, like people who are going out of their way to look up anarchism already kind of have an idea of what it is, right?
Right.
So even like if you do make YouTubes and you're putting out content that people are resonating with, it might be people who already understand you.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah.
that means that you would even have to find a way to get more people in or figure out a way to talk to those new people in ways that they can understand and then get on board too. Because yeah, it's just different. I think it's going to be constantly a work in progress, and like
Yeah.
we just need more propaganda and
Yeah.
propaganda that uses storytelling is like my biggest.
Yeah, that seems to be a really resonant kind of thing. Like I know like you get like your Margaret Killjoys and Robert Evans and their stories that they tell. And they got huge audiences. And in a lot of ways, like they're saying the same things we are, but it's reaching so many more people because of the story format that they're using and how nicely everything fits in that.
For
I
sure.
I like yeah, obviously I'm a big fan of Behind the Bastards and cool people who do cool stuff.
Yeah, those pods are great. And yeah, like that's a great point. Like the way that they spread the message of like, because you'll listen to Behind the Bastard and you're like, oh, this podcast is crazy, but they're really talking about corruption.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is propaganda. Or like cool people behind cool stuff, same thing. They're talking about like the process of work industries and like all types of crazy stuff on that podcast. So yeah, it's just about finding, or at least that is for me, like with my media residency this summer and just in general moving forward, I'm trying to find ways to be less of like a talking head and more of like conversation and
Right.
videos so people feel um more connected to it. I think it's important to explain concepts and like history, but like I'm trying to figure out a way, and that's part of why I haven't made a video in a while, because I'm trying to figure out a way to write. Like I'm working on an IDB Wells one right now, and I've been working on this one forever.
Right.
But I'm trying to figure out a way to write it where it's more about like telling her story instead of being like Ida did this and Ida did that,
Yeah.
or more so being like Ida was so upset that one of her friends got lynched that she started traveling all over the country and documenting lynching, and she's a part of the reason why we even know it was a thing back then, and she's a part of the reason why we should continue to document and keep a score of things like this, because she
Yeah.
showed like the significance of like what bearing witness is, like
Right.
saying that it will probably resonate better with someone because then they see, oh, I have a phone, I'm a storyteller, I could, if I see something wrong, I'll be able to record it and let
Yeah.
people know what happened, like I just really want to make people feel empowered by what I say instead of them being like, damn, I have all this information, now I don't know what to do with it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's yeah, that's a tough spot for me too. Is like I don't know because I've never really been an organizer. I've done various things, but I've never really felt I was very successful at them.
it's hard. It's
so,
very hard.
so to me, it's like, where do I send people? Especially when I'm feeling like, because a lot of what I read, I actually feel black pill. Like I feel like, ugh, what is even the point?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard for me sometimes to like be like, no, also there's hope. There's people doing things that are good, and here's a way that you can help them. It's really, yeah. I find that roadblock quite often, and I'm always trying to get past it. But
Yeah, honestly, that's really sincere, and I can relate to that. Like, I try really hard to stay like revolutionary optimistic, but the last few months were very challenging for me because it seemed like everything was happening all at once, and it was
right,
like obviously like on a objective level, logical, front part of my brain, I'm like, yes, America's fascist. I knew this was gonna happen. I read
yeah,
about it. I know about the Japanese internment camp law. That's why they're using this for ICE. But like seeing it all happen back to back to back has been
yeah,
very challenging for me. But it's like and I'm an atheist. I've been an atheist for a long time, but I feel like the way that I keep moving comes from the sort of like relentlessness I learned in church, where people like, regardless of what's happening, they will still persist. They'll still keep
right,
going because there's always an opportunity to try again. And that's literally the only thing that keeps me going some days. It's like, okay, well, today sucks, but tomorrow may not. So we'll keep going. We'll keep trying.
yeah,
You know, today sucks. I saw people getting shot by the idea of trying to get flour, or,
right,
seeing people getting ripped apart from their families. But every story for that, there's also stories of resistance too. And that's really like, that's the only really thing I think that you can hold on to right now. Because
yeah,
seeing other people still have hope gives you hope, and then you have more wind to do stuff.
yeah. And I do also take a bit of hope from the fact that like there are people who are much better at like organizing
Yeah.
things than I am. And so the work that they're doing out there, like I do kind of a news show every couple weeks where, and at the end I usually shout out like a bunch of mutual aid networks and stuff, and it's like that. The fact that there's 5 mutual aid networks that I can talk about every week or every 2 weeks, that's something to me. That means something.
Oh yeah, that's huge. And yeah, that's another thing too. Like that's what I try to say in the revolutionary optimism doomerism video that I made is like that's another thing about being like a doomer or being black pilled because like those feelings are very real and valid. Like we have all this dread because of all the suffering. Like evil is
Yeah.
very tangible in the universe right now. But it's selfish to think that you're the only person who has a
Right.
solution, you
Yeah.
know?
That's right.
And if you think, oh, damn, well, nothing's gonna change, like you're being selfish to
If
think
I
that
can't
like
solve
you're
it,
the
nobody
only
can.
person, right? You're the only person with a solution here. You're Einstein. Nobody else can figure it out, you know. And in moments like that, that's what grounds me too. Is like, oh, I'm just being an asshole right now. Like
Right.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers. There's obviously always going to be someone smarter than us, better at organizing, better at mobilizing. Like everybody has their place, you know, like
Yeah.
we are a collective. So that just comes from like white supremacy, that
Right.
individualism, you know, like the idea that there's only one and there's got to be a hero. I think that's
Yeah.
also another reason why people are crippled right now with their fears because they think somebody has to come in and tell us what to do.
Yeah. And there literally are no heroes right now,
Yeah, there's
right?
none. You're the hero, dude. You, your friend, your mom, like we're all the heroes. We all have to
Yeah.
stand up. And
Yeah.
I think also to keep morale high, it's like we have to keep showcasing the people who are doing courageous things and brave things. Like
Yeah.
there are communities that are resisting ICE arrests and like running them
Yeah.
out of their towns, like
That's right.
actively all the time. They're people doing armed resistance against Nazis and running them out
Yeah.
of their neighborhoods. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
we
Like
are doing
that's
it.
cool shit, eh? Like when you see those videos online where people are like, yeah, no, we all, our neighborhood got together and kicked the shit out of these Nazis that were marching through our neighborhood. You go
It's
like,
the best.
oh, yes, that's awesome.
Right. That's what it's all about. I love that because it's not people like you and I, right? It's not Black Bloc doing it. It's
Right. It's
literally
just
someone
regular.
who's just
Yeah,
like, you're not gonna be a Nazi in my neighborhood. Like
that's right. Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
exactly the point. That's what's important. Like just being able to see more people, more common folk doing brave things is important because then you realize you can do the brave thing too, you know?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not by yourself. Other people also feel as sad as you do, as angry as you, and they're willing to do something about it, and so can you. And the more that we all do something is like the more that we can make a difference. Like I forget what the police commission, I think it was the LAPD during 2020, like with George Floyd, the uprising and everything. I think he said one 100,000 person march they can control because they can
Right.
plan for that. But 101,000 person marches,
Yeah.
we would overwhelm them.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind too. Like, not to bring up Bugs Life, but we are the ants. You know,
Yeah.
we
That's
are
right.
the ants.
Yeah.
They're just a bunch of grasshoppers,
We
and
outnumber them.
we
We,
outnumber them by a lot.
we
That's
just have
why
to
they're
remember
so
it.
afraid. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why they're afraid of Zohran. He didn't even say anything for real. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
That's right.
uh, $30 minimum wage by 2030," and they're freaking out. Like,
Right. Yeah. That's right.
it's 5 years from now, dude, and they're already freaking out. So imagine what we can do when we really are all together and using our collective rage to
Yeah.
better humanity. Like it's
Yeah.
things are possible.
I think I think that is a great place to stop the conversation and say where can people look for you?
Oh, sure. So I'm Lucretia McEvil on YouTube, on Instagram, SoundCloud. Yeah, look me up. It's spelled Lucretia, and McEvil is Mcevil. Sometimes I spell it with a A, so Macevil.
Okay, and you fairly recently started a Patreon. So people can actually go and support you through that.
Yeah. I like feel so weird about bringing it up, but yes, I did start a Patreon recently. It's to help support my work. Video editing and making essays is hard and time consuming, as Corey understands probably. Being a self-published media professional is difficult. So any support that y'all could give me would be great. I have a coffee account also. And my memberships are low. They start at $2. So if you're interested, go for it. That's what I'll be posting behind the scenes. The content that comes out will go there first. Some mixes, things like that. So yeah, check me out there.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Take care.